welcome back to Auto Left Topic. Hello, Brad.
Good afternoon, Andrew. How are you today?
I'm good, and we can finally shout out your official birthday.
Right. Yeah, it was yesterday.
Yeah.
So I feel exactly one day older than I did yesterday. So the birthday adage is true. You do feel older by one day.
Cool.
Yeah. I partied hard because it's what you do when you're 41, right?
That's right. You definitely do.
Yeah. So I partied hard. We ate cake. We ate lasagna.
Was it Garfield themed?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, because also at 41 you do themed birthdays. I forgot. It was a Garfield themed lasagna and cake birthday. Perfect. That would definitely be something that would be a throwback to childhood. That's for sure. Garfield was a top game in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I had all the Garfield books. But yes, it was low key, not a big deal birthday themed. So it was nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Also, come join our Discord.
Yes.
If you're listening, come join.
Yeah, we've had a couple more join up the past week, and it's growing steadily each week. So it's having good conversations, and the more people, the more conversations, right?
Yeah, it's fun.
We have a few different subsections, I guess you'd call them, kind of like in the old forum days. There's one for scale autos. There's a general topic one. There's a project car one. There's a pets one.
Car spotting
one. Of course, it's 2022, and no Discord would be complete without a meme channel.
Yep.
And I think that's it. There's a section there where you can correct us if we're wrong. That would seem to be something that happens from time to time, I would say. Yeah. So yeah, please come join the Discord. So we don't claim to know everything, and we don't know if we're wrong until you tell us. So tell us if we're wrong. Maybe we'll even shut up.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things we were discussing is the new Ken Block Pikes Peak car that he's going to run.
Okay, we discussed it last week. Oh no, we discussed it in the Discord. Yeah.
So it helps keep me on top of car news because sometimes I miss some stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard yesterday. I turned 41, so I'm way behind the curve here on pop culture now. So that's when it happens.
Okay.
It's all downhill at 40.
All right, Grandpa, calm down.
I'm kidding, obviously, but no, there's plenty of car culture going around.
All right.
Yes,
are you being buried next week? What?
2 weeks at least.
Okay. All right.
So the Pigausssss.
Pigausssss.
Well, it's a dumb name.
It's a super dumb name.
There's no question.
Also, I thought he was running all electric stuff now. It's really weird to me.
So I think he's running all electric Audis is the deal. And that's why this is not an Audi, because I think his deal with Audi is all electric.
Weird.
And my guess is that they didn't have the all new electric Audi ready in time for Pikes Peak for next year. So they scrambled to get something that, probably had some more off the shelf parts they could put together.
And then he still runs. He's running a Hyundai in American Rally,
right? Because again, I'm pretty sure his deal with Audi is the all electric thing. So we'll see. But anyway, the topic at hand here is the Pigausssss. Pigausssss. I don't know. Is Mobile One involved in this? It must be the names on it, and it has the Pegasus on the side of it.
Oh, it does. I don't know. I don't know why it wasn't called the Hoon 11.
Yeah, there's a lot of other words they could have gone with, like a lot, but it is what it is.
So it's called this because if you haven't seen a picture of it, it's done like the Pink Pig.
Yep.
Porsche Le Mans car, and then
kind of it's the color of it. It's not really. There's no other callback to it other than that.
And
it has the giant Mobile One Pegasus on the side,
which is a common thing on 911s for some reason. I don't know where that came from. Do you?
Because it's cool looking. I don't know the theme. I mean, it was on race cars back in the day. It's neat looking. It makes a cool fender ornament.
Or was it just a thing from Outlaws?
No, it was on a lot of race cars back in the day. Not necessarily all Porsches, but it was on a lot of race cars. I dig it. I like to see it on a fender of a 60s or 70s race car. It makes sense. The one thing I don't like about it, though, well, anybody who listens to this podcast knows my opinion is probably going to be strong and worded here. I don't like the car at all, but one of the things that I have a huge problem with is that we're going to start seeing the Mobile One Pegasus on the side of every crap can Ultima on the road now.
I guess.
I mean, listen, how many cars have monster logos on them because of Ken Block cars?
I mean, I don't have a 911, so I don't care.
No, I don't care if it's on. I don't care about 911s or not. I don't have a 911 either. But I just it's a kind of a classic vintage race thing, and we're gonna start seeing it on like Altimas and Sonatas, and it's gonna be bad. I don't like it.
Sure. Doesn't really bother me because I just ignore those cars anyways.
It just kind of. I think it's gonna kind of ruin it for the vintage look that it has. So
I mean, the cars, it's weird because it's like, it's built by a real shop, which is cool, BBI.
yep.
And it's definitely a real race car. It'll probably do pretty well. But just like
Oh, no question.
the aero on it is just so ridiculous. It's like a narrow body roof line with like an RWB kit extreme.
It's not even RWB. It just looks like somebody cut trash cans in half and stuck them on the fenders. There's no actual style to it. But listen, all of my criticism here is going to be from purely a stylistic standpoint. I'm sure the car is going to be an amazing race car. I'm sure it's going to, set a ridiculously fast time up the mountain. I do appreciate that it has lots of wings on it, so that when Ken blocks halfway up, at least he'll have a nice flight down and he'll land softly. I don't. I just, as far as purely from aesthetics, I don't understand why they went with an early Nairo car. They could have done a later style, wider car and integrated it better, because it has, the early style turn signals and stuff that are like a foot and a half in from the edge of the bodywork now. It just looks strange to me. It doesn't have enough 911 left to call it a 911. I just, whatever. It's neat. It's different. I don't think stylistically it's a good looking car. It's purposeful. So I'm not going to say it's bad, but I just think
No,
it's
it
straight stylistically, it's not cool.
no, looks like it was designed for YouTube for a video game.
Yeah. Yeah. And it looks like a Pikes Peak car. And if you go back in time to other Pikes Peak cars like the Celicas and the other Toyotas they built in the 90s, they have a similar look to them. That the head-on shot of this Huna Pigausssss, it almost looks like a 911 GT1 car from the 90s. So there's definitely some things there about it that are like, at least it has some tradition. I don't. It's a weird choice. I think that the young fanboys are going to love it, and that's all they're going for, and that's all that matters, because that's what marketing does, and it will work. I hope it's fast. I hope it's cool.
Is it all-wheel
I hope he
drive?
does
It
well.
must be.
My assumption is yes. I mean, it's a Pikes Peak car in 2022, and it's a
Yeah,
car
it must
built
be.
by the Hoonigan guys, and they're all about all-wheel drive, are they not? I think
Yeah.
everything's been all-wheel drive. Yes, twin turbo, 1400 horsepower, all-wheel drive.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
it is all-wheel
it's,
drive.
I don't know. My issue is less with the car, like the actual car that was used. It's more with like the livery and the name. It's just like too derivative for me.
Sure. Yeah, it's almost like it's Hoonigan, and they're very popular, and they have a huge following. They don't need to try this hard. Like their
Yeah.
original liveries have always been they've been their own, and they've been good. I mean, and there's really not much on here that looks very close to the pink pig other than the color. Because the pink pig, for those that don't know, has the sections of the pig marked on it. Like the car is marked out like a pig being slaughtered for meat. And this doesn't have those sections called out on it. It just has what looks like chalk drawings of by a child all over the side of it, or I don't know what it means. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. It could just be like, I don't know, just do their flat black, whatever they do with like pink or something. I don't know. Just do
Yeah,
like something else. I don't know.
yeah. It just almost seems it seems too try hard. That's all. And Maybe that's the direction they're going with everything. Who knows? That's what their fans are into, I guess. Right?
I guess. I don't know. I'm not
Anyway,
super into it.
no. Again, I'm looking forward to watching it. I'm sure there'll be a super cool, video series following their build of the car and following the drive up Pikes Peak like they always do. I don't know. Did you ever see the one with the Unicorn, the Mustang?
I didn't watch it.
It was pretty good, honestly. It was very entertaining. A lot of it, I think, was done by Larry Chen. There's a lot about his videoing the whole event, so it was super cool. Actually, that wasn't even a race. That was just the like drive up the hill for video, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
So, regardless, it'll be cool. I look forward to watching it. I look forward to the content they have. It's just stylistically not my thing, and that's fine. I'm just not going to spend $50 on a T-shirt with the logo on it. So
Yep,
I'm sure plenty of people will, though, right?
they sure will.
Much like we've said in the past, it's not for us, but we appreciate it exists. So
So, I kind of saw it in passing. The ProDrive P25. Do you know anything about this?
yeah, I they've only set a teaser out. And did you see the picture of the teaser where it literally just looks like the outline of a GC coupe with the
Yeah.
STI wing?
So, what is it?
They haven't said much. They're going to announce it in like 4 or 5 days. My assumption, and we'll have to follow up with this next week, is that they're basically doing like for lack of a better term here, a singerized version of a GC coupe, but with ProDrive touch other than Singer, obviously. That's my assumption because all they said was an icon redefined. This is P25, and they showed an outline of the GC coupe with the STI wing. So
All right. So, a ProDrive built GC Coupe streetcar.
that's my assumption.
That sounds pretty cool.
I'm 100% here for it,
Yeah.
but that's just a guess.
Because they do advertise on their Instagram like they've been restoring a lot of the older early 2000s WRC cars lately. And that stuff's really cool. Just watching those cars get put back together.
Yeah, it's crazy to think. I think we were talking about this before the show, but like it's been 25 years since those cars were new. Like the reason it's P25 is the 25th anniversary of the GC. Like I just
Yeah, 98, 97, 98.
yeah, it's so long ago.
Actually, I think a GC goes all the way back to 92 or 93, but like the 22B was like 97, 98. So,
Yeah. Well, ProDrive's doing all kinds of cool stuff right now. Like I said, they're restoring the rally cars. They're building that what they call that thing, the Hunter, or there was a name for it.
it's
I
the
think it was the Hunter.
Dakar, right? Aren't they doing
Yeah, but they're
electric
making
Dakar stuff?
no, they're making a. It looks like a Dakar vehicle, but it's going to be sold to the public for street use,
Oh,
and
cool.
it's a 3.5 liter EcoBoost, like a
Nice.
Raptor or GT4 Ford GT engine.
Huh.
So they're making, I think, 25 of those as well. Maybe 25 is the number this year. It sounds like. I haven't read about it in a while. I think it was a couple months ago. The release went out about it, but it's like a 600 horsepower. It's basically it reminds me of actually is the Locomotives Rally Fighter.
Yeah.
It's kind of like one of those,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
but built by ProDrive. So
Yeah.
it'll be $1.5 million, so it doesn't matter. But they're only gonna make 25 of them, so it'll definitely be a rich guy play toy. So hopefully I'll see one around somewhere because we seem to get all the multi-million-dollar cars in this area, at least one of them.
It's cool
See it
though.
at 4 till 4 or something.
I know it'd be cool if someone, if Rally Art still existed, to rebuild Evos or something.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I mean, especially if we're not going to be seeing a ton of internal combustion cars being developed in the future. If we can at least just get these companies to celebrate their historical vehicles and start building them up, that'd be great. Nissan's doing a pretty good job right now. Mazda's doing a job with early Miatas. So there's definitely some market there, and we just need to get all the manufacturers on board.
Yeah,
So
didn't Mazda start releasing restoration parts for
Mazda
Miatas?
is doing restoration parts for Miatas and
RX-7s?
FDRX7s.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I don't think they're doing FBSA or FC parts yet, probably because the cars aren't worth enough yet to for their owners to have the money to spend. So we shall see.
Yeah, I think Nissan is starting to make a lot of GTR parts again.
Nissan is doing a bunch of R32 stuff, and
Yeah.
they've announced they're going to start doing R33 stuff. And obviously, they did Datsun Z stuff a while ago.
Yeah, so they
So,
have that legacy of doing it.
yep, yeah, Porsche does it, Mercedes does it, BMW not so much.
They
The
used to,
American
though.
manufacturers not so much.
No, BMW had a whole classic catalog
That's right too. They do, don't
for
they? I forgot about
2002s,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't know if they expanded that into like 3 Series.
I know Toyota has always been interested in their history, but not to the point where they're like making a bunch of parts. So it'd be
No,
nice to
they're
see.
they're doing A86s. I remember hearing about that.
Are they?
Yes.
Oh, I'm out of the loop. See, you corrected me already. Don't even need the Discord.
Yeah.
So I know they make parts longer than other manufacturers. I know when I was rebuilding the head on the 79 Cressida, there was a I could buy the head bolts brand new from Toyota.
Well, a lot
So
of their stuff was built a lot longer in the rest of the world
sure, and the
and
same thing
lives
goes with.
on in the rest of the world as like lived on as the same car for longer.
I agreed, but the same thing happened with Mitsubishi. They made Mark One Monteros as Hyundai Gallopers and stuff into the 2000s, but I can't go to a Mitsubishi dealer in the U.S. and buy those parts with the same part number, whereas the Toyota dealer I still could. So
Yeah, and I'll get to that with my Q45 stuff.
Q45 talk.
Yeah.
So see, that's a weird one too. That there's not a lot of those cars left, so I don't think Nissan would even consider making parts for that car.
Well, we might as well get right into it. So I finished the valve cover gaskets for that car.
Okay.
Got it all back together. It was kind of annoying. I think I talked about this. The coil packs on the cylinder 1 and 2, the very front bank, front cylinder in each bank has a different connector,
Yeah, it's like
and I think
reversed.
yeah, so you can't plug them in, but you really can't because they're facing a different direction. But I think I found the correct Nissan coil pack connectors, and I can swap those out and put 2 new coils in there, so it doesn't have just 6 new coils. It's got 8 new coils. But anyway, I put the whole thing back together. I'm still waiting on. I think I talked about this too. The throttle body gasket was available from the Q45 dealer, from the Infinity dealer here
Yep.
in Danvers, but the little elbow that goes to the throttle body, and then the gasket for the IAC valve was unavailable in the United States anymore. And actually, I bought the last throttle body gasket in the United States.
Hmm.
Came out of California. So
Are there aftermarket ones available or just nothing?
there are,
Okay.
but I just wanted the OEM one.
No, of course.
And then, so I looked it up. I went to one of my parts websites. They're available. They're actually, I should have them tomorrow. But the gaskets that were on there weren't in too bad a shape, so I was able to put the car back together for now. And they're accessible. I could swap them out later.
Excellent. Case around top, right?
So, yeah, they're right on the top. So anyway, put the whole car back together. I was like, all right, time to start it. I hit it. It fired up like instantly. I was like, sweet.
Well, I don't think you ever talked about how deep into the car you went.
I think I did. I took it all the way down. I had to take the intake off, the upper intake.
I think last week you had just had the intake off, so there was no other work had
Well,
been
yeah, it
done
was
yet.
just, I had to get the intake off to do the valve cover gaskets because it hangs over them just slightly. It's obscured by a couple other parts. It's not, it's like doing it. I was like, this is kind of annoying and hard. And then as it was going back together, I was like, I guess this wasn't that bad, which is normally what
No,
happens to
it
me.
all makes sense. It's just a lot of parts.
Yeah, it's just a lot of steps,
Yeah,
and I just went really slow to just to make sure I do it right. And um, it really needed valve cover gaskets. They were starting to leak, and every now and then you drive it, you could smell the oil dripping right onto the manifolds.
yeah, it's
So
annoying.
that needed to be addressed. If you were doing just coil packs and spark plugs, it's very easy. You can just do that without removing any intake stuff. That is serviceable without doing all the extra steps I did.
Which makes sense as a maintenance item that it would be more
Yeah.
accessible.
The knock sensors I think I talked about were there was paperwork with the car that said mice had chewed the knock sensor harness. And I was like, I don't know about that. Because I could see down in there, but I couldn't reach it. And it looked intact. So when I had the intake off, I was able to trace those wires, and they had continuity. They're not broken. Knock sensors were a little corroded. I threw new ones in there because they're accessible with the intake off. It made sense to do it. The the trickiest part of getting that intake back on was in the back. The fuel pressure regulators for the rails are back there,
Sure. Right up
and
against the
there's
firewall.
one, yeah, right up against the firewall, and then there's a giant vacuum tube for the idle air control valve that's at the back of the manifold, and then below that is a small quarter-inch vacuum line that goes to the passenger side fuel injector bank. Um, and if you don't hook that vacuum line back up, you're gonna have a bad time. So that one was really hard to get to. That was in the bottom. That took me like a couple tries to get it on there, and I actually ended up replacing it with some silicone vacuum hose I had, and just
So that
making
one
it.
actually controls the fuel pressure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You
you
know the
definitely need
vacuum line
that.
that would go to a
Yep.
regulator.
Yep.
So
That'd be an important one.
yeah, and I made the silicone line like half an inch longer just to make it easier for me to get it on.
Sure.
And then the other one on the driver's side is up higher, and I replaced that one because it looked a little dry rotted. But those are the only two vacuum lines I did. The other ones looked fine.
I have
So
rolls of vacuum line here waiting to go in the Cressida, but
I buy the HPS silicone hose. It's
I bought all silicone. Yep.
well, did you buy like thick walled stuff? Because the problem is if you don't buy the right silicone stuff, it can collapse because it's too thin
Well,
and
I bought the
soft.
stuff that's for the purpose of what it's for. I'll send you a link later.
Okay, because I have it's like, and actually I like that they sell it. I say quarter-inch, but I think it's like actually 6 millimeter because you can buy it in the correct
Oh,
metric
see, the stuff
size.
I got is all in standard, but close enough kind of deal.
Yeah.
So
So and this is like a decent. It's just like black, so it just blends in. So, anyways, I did that.
you didn't go blue? Come on now.
uh, Everything's back together. The mass air meter had been cleaned. Like I emptied a can of mass airflow cleaner into it. Um, so it definitely had a couple of problems here. It had a really dirty mass airflow meter and had some seemingly bad knock sensors because those are the codes. Started up. It stumbled a couple times after it was running. I back probed the connector for the mass airflow meter to see the voltage. It was kind of weird and dropping out. I was like, that's kind of strange. As we were running it on the lift, it started to clear up, and you could actually see the voltage climb when you're giving it throttle like it should. I was like, all right, maybe it's all right. So it seemed like it was really dirty, and then as though it's a hot wire sensor, not a hot film sensor. So as those hot wires heat up, they do self clean. But
Sure.
maybe this thing was so dirty it was just never self cleaning. That would kind of explain why it would start to run better as I was driving it. So
So
anyway,
you haven't replaced the mass airflow though.
no, it's original.
Okay.
Just cleaned it,
Okay.
which is what I mean. I can get them from Japan. They're actually less expensive than the Reman ones that you'd get here
Oh, nice.
for a brand new one. Yeah,
But if you don't need it, you don't need it. So
I don't think I need it because I've put about 120 miles on the car and it drives wonderful.
awesome.
Like not acting up at all.
So I think it's just a combination of things.
Yeah, it had a bad coolant temp sensor, and it was all very, very intermittent. It was very hard to get it to do it at once. Um,
And again, the corrosion on those knock sensors probably didn't help either.
well, that's the other thing too. When I had the taking these manifold off, I also had to remove the engine harness, which is on top of the engine, and the two grounds are right at the top of the manifold, and they were very dirty, and I cleaned those. So who knows?
Yeah, like I said,
It's
a
like,
combination of things that you repaired, and now it's better, which is at the end
yeah.
of the day all that matters.
And so I test drove it one day. I was like, this is driving great. This is cool. I'm gonna put the shocks in it that I have. I'm confident.
Excellent.
So I threw all four shocks in it with new upper spring perches in the front, and drove the next day. I didn't realize how bad they were. It seemed like they were okay, but like one was totally blown in the front. It was just like wet, and the other one must have been weak. The car
Okay,
feels way better. Like
awesome.
feels
So
like
you now
heavy,
have a brand new Q45.
basically. But then when I was checking the front, it's weird because it must have happened pretty recently because it got a sticker last year in June.
Okay,
The upper control arm has some play in it, so it's not like a if somebody just checks it, they'd probably tell me it has a bad ball joint because again, it has an odd suspension like the Montero that people don't
yep.
understand how it works,
And
but
they're
you can
just
actually
inspection people in Massachusetts don't know anything beyond, oh, the car's not
yeah,
brand new, it fails.
yeah. So I was able, I looked those up. They were like $250 in the United States a piece, left and right,
Okay,
which kind of stinks.
yep, it's a lot of money.
Buying them from Japan, it's $300 for the set,
That's much better. It's almost half
and
price.
they're OEM. So
Worst
so
case
that's the thing.
scenario, are they rebuildable? Could you just put new bushings in?
No,
Okay,
no. So those are on their way too, but they're that's the thing. So this car was built for so much longer in Japan.
yeah.
You can actually still get parts for it. You just have to go through Japan.
That's the kind of stuff that makes me nervous about some of these cars because a non-rebuildable part like that, that's a pretty specific part. That's going to be hard to replace in another 10 years.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? I get,
I mean, you can get. They share suspension with 300ZXs, so
so you could
like
make something work.
I could get like an adjustable upper set,
Okay.
like some race
Aftermarket.
set that's
Yeah.
got aftermarket adjustable upper camber. These are just fixed.
Right.
I'd rather just go with the OEM ones because I don't have to do an alignment.
Yeah, you're
And
building a stock car. You're not building a hot rod here. So,
yeah, the NVH is going to be stock.
yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a nice Q45, as it should
So
be. Well, I'm excited to go for riding it because I remember riding it before and being impressed with how nice it rode and how powerful it was. And I can only imagine it's all better now. Like,
yeah, I don't know what to do with it. Like it's pretty
right.
cool. I'm like I don't really want it,
Well,
or I don't know
I
what to
think
do
the
with it.
best thing to do is to put some miles on it. You know, make
Yeah,
sure
I'm gonna hang on to it for a while because
everything is solid, and then we can go and we can make some videos for it because it's no secret that you tried to sell it before, and the guy who bought it brought it back for some reasons that weren't even issues, but that's a whole other story. But we can prove that the car is now perfect and maybe try to sell it again. You know, and that guy brought it back because the AC didn't work, but we've proven now that the AC works great. It just doesn't turn on if the ambient temperature is lower than 45, right? So
yeah, it doesn't. It's actually like the car was just advanced at the time. Like it's just interesting the way it works. Like it doesn't. The other day I was using it and it was like 60 degrees outside, and I turn the AC on. The lowest it goes to 65.
it
So
won't
if
go
you turn it
colder than
on to
ambient.
cold, yeah, it's not going to really work the AC that much. What it's going to do is it pulls in outside air
Okay,
because because the outside air is already cooler. Like
so it's going to make
it's
the temperature the temperature.
yeah. There's no manual override to just make it cold. It's either
Okay,
economy or auto for air conditioning and heat.
interesting.
Yeah,
Well, that makes
like you can
sense. I mean, it's going
yeah
to work the easiest it can. Like If
Yeah.
all has a temp sensor and the temp is cold, it's gonna be like, well, I don't need to do anything. We'll just keep it here.
Yeah. It actuates the right flapper doors and pulls in air from the outside, and so yeah,
And the other complaint was the transmission was broken, and we've proven the transmission is just fine.
it's definitely not broken.
Yeah. So
Um, you feel it. It's a '90s transmission. Like it doesn't slam into
yeah,
gear, but you
it's not
feel
an eight
little
speed get
shifts to it.
drag. It's a
No, it's a
4 speed
four-speed,
ASIN. Like, is it an ASIN? I
and
assume it's an ASIN.
probably, and you
Yeah,
feel it's not like a CVT, like that doesn't have any gears.
sure.
Because if you're used to driving that, you're not going to feel any shifts. But the only time I really feel it shift and look for gears is I go up and down Old Route 1 here. That's part of my test drive loop. It's like 40 miles. I go up to Newburyport from my house in Peabody,
Yep.
over, so up 95. I'm doing 75 miles an hour. Then I get off, go through Newburyport, down Old Route 1, which is like 45 to 55,
And it's up
up
and
and
down
down
hills.
hills.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can feel it kind of look for gears, and then when you come down the hill and let off, you can feel it go down a gear to like slow you down. Fluid's nice and
Working
pink.
working perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters.
So
Excellent. Well,
yeah,
I'm looking forward to going for a ride and driving it because it sounds like a nice car. So
yeah, I was gonna bring it to Radwood this weekend, but unfortunately, we're not gonna go. Uh, we had my kids at daycare. He had a close contact with COVID,
yep.
so we're like, he's not sick, luckily, and so we're just keeping an eye on it. So we don't want to. We also had decided previously, we're like, well, maybe we shouldn't go because case rates are getting higher, and unfortunately, it's gonna be a lot of people down there, and he's not vaccinated yet. So
Right. Well, we'll monitor
plus,
it and
yeah, and also unfortunately, like I hate to complain about warm weather, but it's gonna be like 97 degrees and like 70% humidity on Saturday.
yeah, we're not complaining about the weather there, the temperature. You're complaining about the humidity. It's gonna be hot.
It's
So
gonna feel like 100 and
yeah.
like soupy. And also, unfortunately, that car's a V8, and it's got a 24-gallon tank. It's gonna cost me an arm and a leg just to get down there.
Well, nobody's saying you got to fill a tank, but the fuel mileage
Uh,
is the same either way.
yeah, I don't have to. I could just do a half tank each time and just do it
What I,
twice as
what I,
much.
what I'm saying is the size of the tank has no bearing on this comment at all. It's the amount of fuel the engine's going to use to get there. I imagine it probably gets low 20s in the highway.
Yeah, I have the window sticker here somewhere.
Yeah,
I think it
I
even had like
imagine
a
low
gas guzzler
20s.
tax back in the day.
Oh, geez. I imagine low 20s. I know like the Saab across country all highway got like 25, but I never replicated that driving it around. It was more like 22 all average. So
That's pretty normal for like a '90s
a 90
four-cylinder
sedan.
car.
Yep. So I'm assuming it's going to be a little lower because it's a V8 90s car. And again,
Yeah,
it has an early, well, I don't want to say an early automatic, but in the grand scheme of things, it's closer to the beginning of automatics than it is closer to now, probably. It's probably designed sometime in the late 80s, and it's
yeah,
not the best transmission. And it's not like today where the new automatics have like 100 speeds and they're 10,000 times more efficient than even a manual.
yeah. And they're
So,
at highway speed. They're churning at like 1,000 RPM or
or
something.
less. Yeah. Yeah. I was actually watching because they released the embargo on the, what is it called? Nissan 400 or is it Nissan Z? What are they calling it? Just a Z now?
I think it's just the Z,
So
right?
just the
They're not calling it
Nissan
400
Z.
Z.
Yeah. So anyway, they released the embargo on it. So all the journalists were releasing their, videos and articles and stuff about the car. And it's significantly faster as an automatic, which is, I know, been a thing for a while now as far as, track times and stuff go. But even just a quarter mile, typical standard measurement, I was shocked how much faster the car went down the track. So, and it's not
Really?
even
How much
the,
faster?
I don't remember the numbers. It's like a second and a half. It's
Is
something
it like
dumb.
a? It must be like a 13-second car, right?
So I think
At
that it's
minimum.
like it's a low 13 with the automatic and a mid 13 with the, so maybe not a second and a half, maybe half a second, mid 13 without it. What really got me though is watching the visual of it. Watch the drag race the automatic next to the manual, and the numbers don't sound like a lot until you see it side by side. And you're like, man, that's way faster. So it
Yeah.
doesn't stop me from wanting the manual, obviously, because it's all about driving experience, yada yada yada. Stop, speed isn't the only thing in the world here, but it just shows how much more efficient automatics have become. I think it's a 10-speed auto, so it's got
Yeah.
infinite shifts pretty much, and it shifts so fast that it doesn't matter. It's not a
Yeah.
CVT, but it might as well be. So
And the other thing you sent me to was I think it was a prototype on the press car. It was a Camisa video. Was the uh, Nismo exhaust?
yeah,
Oh my god, they
yeah,
like tuned it to sound like a straight six.
yeah, it sounds so good. Well, that's
Yeah.
actually, if you watch his full video, he talks about the exhaust on the cars. Um,
Yeah.
it's Jason Camisa's video. I think it's on Motor Trend, not Motor Trend.
Yep.
Excuse me, Haggerty. It's
Yep.
Haggerty's YouTube channel. They have a comparison video of the exhaust sounds, and I guess there are regulations now that apply to manual cars and not automatics about sound
Huh.
and decibels. So I
Huh.
guess that the manual cars doesn't make that same noise the automatic does from the factory. But obviously, the aftermarket will fix that. So I know it's not nothing like the VQs of old. That's for sure. It sounded like a IT bead 2.8 liter inline six from the 70s. It sounded amazing. I was
These
mind
cars are
blown by how it sounded.
these cars are turbo.
They're twin turbo, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, they're pretty
Wow.
they're pretty wild for the money. Like you're not going to get anything better in the 40 grand range.
No, so they tuned out the turbo whistle
Yep,
and made it sound like a straight six. That's impressive.
that car sounds really good. And
Yeah.
that's only, unfortunately, again, that's the automatic, but I'm sure you'll be able to buy the parts off the shelf to make the manual sound the same. There's
Yeah.
just, again, there's some regulation now from the government for manual transmission cars versus automatic cars and sound decibels. Maybe because people drive them differently. I don't know the reason behind it, but
I haven't heard this at all.
they talk about it in that video.
Weird.
So
Huh.
very strange, very strange. But yeah,
Well,
so to change subject, I guess I'm super excited about that car. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I'm gonna run out and spend 40 grand on a new Z, but I'll certainly be watching them as they become slightly less expensive on the used market in 5-10 years.
I'll tell you, I was getting Stephanie's oil change in her Crosstrek today at the dealership, and I was looking at a 2022 WRX, which are also between 30 and 40 grand.
Yeah,
And I would much rather have a Z.
yeah, everything's expensive.
Yeah,
I was
but for that
actually,
money, I'd rather have the Z.
yeah, shout out, self congratulatory here to my other podcast, the Work Podcast. We talked about that last week. The average price for a new car has broken 40 grand.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the average sale price for March of 2022 was like 43.5 or something, which is, that's absurd. That used to be
Yeah.
sports car money. Like that used to be choosing a fun, fancy car was 40 grand, but you could still buy a car for 15 to 20, and I'm just so out of touch with that stuff. It bugs me. So, but yeah,
Well,
40 grand to me sounds like a lot of money for your average new car, but it doesn't sound like a lot of money for a new sports car like the Z, especially when a Supra is going to cost you close to 70.
yeah.
So I don't see a use case here now for the Supra if the Z costs that much little,
Right. So
that
speaking of
much less, I should
exhaust,
say, not little.
um, we talked briefly about the G20 exhaust.
Yes, you ordered one
I couldn't.
from Greg.
Yep, I got it, and I couldn't
Excellent.
find a header because they weren't made anywhere, or they're
Correct.
just like on super back order.
Supply chain issues, just like everything else. Can't buy a Hot Wheels car.
So
Can't buy an SR20 header.
right, I put a post on one of the SR20 groups, and some guy locally in Lynn actually had one.
Okay.
I don't even know if I told you this. So
You sent a post to the Discord and said it was next town over. I assumed that meant Salem, but Lynn also works.
yeah, uh, it's like an old. It's I mean the header's almost as old as the car. It's an old style header,
I
but
believe we call that period correct racing parts.
yeah, a lot of the SR20 stuff for the front wheel drive cars is interchangeable. So this could have been on like a 200SX or something or Sentra,
At
and it'll
200SX,
work.
Sentra, NX2000,
Yeah.
G20, who knows?
So it's kind of it's definitely seen some things. It's been
Well,
around.
It came from Lynn, Andrew.
Well, this guy said he bought it off some other old school SR20 guy, and then he decided to go a different route. He's got a bunch of SR20 parts too. He's like trying to sell me other stuff. I'm like, no, I just need that header,
Oh, good
please.
guy to know. I mean,
He was like, do you want this? He's like, do you want this valve cover for an SR20? I was like, sure.
yeah, I
I'll
would have
just
taken it
hang it on
just
the
in
wall.
case you has cracks or whatever. You have a spare. I
Yeah.
remember back in the day in Sport Compact Car magazine reading there were two different companies that made SR20 parts that advertised
Well,
the Sport
Stillen
Compact
did.
car. Well, it's
Jim Wolf
Stillen and
Technology.
Jim Wolf Technologies. So I think it'd be cool if ever if it becomes time to time belt again. Throw a set of old Jim Wolf cams in it or something would be amazing.
It's got a chain there, Chief.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, fine. I just assumed 2 liter from the '90s that it was a belt car.
No. SR20 is pretty sweet, actually.
Did you know it was a chain car before you bought one?
Yes.
Okay, you worked
Just
at an
worked for the
affinity
dealer.
dealer, so that's all right. I just assumed that it was a belt car because every other 2 liter 4 cylinder from the '90s is a belt car. So
New friend is SR20. Old friend is 4G63.
right, temporary
Um,
friend.
yeah. So this is it's like an air exhaust. Like, oh no, it's Advanced Engine Breathing Systems, AEBS header, which are
Okay,
now places out of business.
of course,
And apparently it's one of the it was like the hot setup at the time. It's like it's a long tube header, which is kind of interesting.
which is
So
cool.
it the collectors hang down slightly below the cross member, which everybody's like, if you're really low, it's a problem. But
You're
if you're
not.
like just in the tines, yeah, I should be all right. Whoever had this before, the guy I bought it off of, he's like, yeah, he welded like a little tiny skid plate on the front of the collectors
Okay,
to like
whatever.
help. I'm like, all right, that's cool. But it's and then I went down this whole rabbit hole. I actually had this old book from when I was at Bentley about intake and exhaust design,
Yep.
and it's so you would think like in your brain you're like, oh, 421 is probably a better header, right? But actually, the way this one's set up, 4 into 1 is actually a better setup because each cylinder is independent, and then it collects underneath in a collector under the
Okay.
engine. So there is some stuff I got to do. It doesn't have an EGR port. I got to do a little funky stuff with the EGR. Um, the O2 sensor is way down underneath, so I'm gonna have to extend the O2 sensor wires. Um, and
Which is what I
then
was reading about most of the headers for the SR20s.
yeah, not a big deal. That's easy for me to do. It's somebody has. I don't think it originally came with this. Like one of the runners, one of the upper primaries, they call it, has like a bung in it. It's weirdly small. I don't know if it was for exhaust gas temperature sender or something, or I found a plug that would fit it,
Okay.
so I got to plug it. It's
Well,
got
worst
some
case, you
like
could weld something in there if you had to.
yeah, it's got some studs um on the side that I don't know what they were used to attach to, and they don't fit anything on the engine.
Hmm.
Maybe they're holding a shield that the person made, a heat shield. I don't know. I think I can like take a Dremel and just they look like bolt heads welded to the pipes, and
Okay.
maybe I can just snip the welds
Clean it
or
up.
just cut them down. um, it was painted with VHT black paint. The guy had before pictures. It was kind of rusty. It's not a stainless header. He said he cleaned it up as best he could and then painted them, and it didn't look too bad. I'm
Yeah.
gonna end up
Cover it
covering it
in
with a
exhaust wrap.
heat. I got a heat wrap or heat blanket for it, anyways.
Okay.
Instead of spending
Like
all the time wrapping it in
the
little
roll of
tubes.
kind, or what? It
No, it's literally like a
wraps
blanket.
around the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah, it's just easier and it'll look more like a original header. So that's pretty cool. And it's got a flex pipe. It goes underneath. I put the car up in the air the other day. I was looking at it. The exhaust in the car was not long for this world. Like the
Yeah, we
muffler
knew
went,
that.
but the
Yep.
rest of it was it had been patched together before.
Okay.
It had the
Was it as bad
original,
as like the Mirage?
yeah, yeah, kind of. So the original um, manifold, obviously, the original downpipe. Flex didn't look so great. You can see where it's been fixed before. It was rotted at the hangers. Somebody had welded onto the pipe. Cat doesn't look so great. The rear O2 sensor is definitely seized in it. So I ordered two new O2 sensors.
Okay.
Uh, and I've got the high flow cat from Greg to go in that system. The annoying thing is that the original rear O2 sensor is a 12 millimeter thread, like a motorcycle. I guess that's a common Nissan thing.
Okay.
But it's really easy to go on like Amazon and get an adapter from an 18 mil to 12 mil, because I guess this happens a lot on Harleys. Like all these adapters came up for Harleys. Like if you try to put a new exhaust on your Harley and it's got O2 sensors, or any motorcycle, they'll motorcycles use like 12 millimeter oxygen sensors. Who knew? I didn't know.
Hmm.
So I that's not a big deal. I can the cat has a port in it for an O2 for rear, so that's cool. Um, I was checking it; everything should line up. Then I'm looking at the other day. I was like, oh, maybe I'll just throw the cat back on for the first couple of days, so I can at least drive the car around because it's like undrivable. As soon as you hit like 1,000 RPM, it drones like so bad.
Sure. Yeah, it's pretty loud.
I'm looking at the cat between the cat and the rear cat back, and it's bolted, and then somebody definitely like booger welded the flange. I'm like, cool. So all this is just going to
I
get
mean,
cut out.
it's a New England car that gets salt and stuff on the outside and moisture on the inside, so they don't last. Anybody from New England or any Rust Belt town knows that exhaust is the first to go. So that doesn't surprise me.
It's interesting though because Nissan Infiniti used to use a lot of stainless in their exhaust and they would last a long time. I remember it at the Infiniti dealer, but apparently this one didn't quite make it. So
I remember
because it's
Infinity having issues with with O2 sensors and cats back in the day.
those that was like G35s, the later cars. So the and then the catback on this car is a foreign auto part like replacement, so that was even worse quality. And it's funny, the pipe is like 1.25 inches, so this should be a significant upgrade of 2.5 inch pipe. But just eyeballing everything, all the stuff, I'm like, this should line up nice. And I'm looking at like, I basically just had to order more parts to make it fit. And like this new header didn't come with any gaskets, but because it's an SR20, I was able to find a Cometic manifold gasket instead of like a metal one that's like 3 layers, instead of like one of those cheesy paper metal ones. So like a nice metal Cometic head gasket that will crush it, because I'm sure the flange is not perfect on this header,
Right,
and that way it
especially
doesn't
being
leak.
old. Yeah,
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 so that's
multi-layer is
cool.
probably good.
Mm-hmm. And then all the hangers. I was like, I don't think I need hangers. And I'm looking at them like they're pretty blown out because they're like the original hangers that are almost 30 years old. So I went on Amazon and I was gonna order like the normal style, like oval style headers, oval style hangers.
Yep.
Now they make ones that have like 3 holes in them. So it's
So
like
it's like
the oval
adjustable almost.
style, and then it's got 3 extra holes. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's pretty smart. I'll just order. I needed like 5, so I ordered 6 of those. I was like, that should help me because these pipes are going to be bigger. The muffler's a little smaller. He's got the right hangers on there, but it might need to be adjusted so it sits right in the bumper because every car is different. So I don't know. That made sense to me to try those because it's nothing's worse when you're trying to put an aftermarket exhaust on. It's like stretching hangers. You're like trying to find one that's like the right length,
Yeah, and then you have
and it's
the
like,
piping is like against the rear suspension control arms.
yeah, and you hit a bump and it knocks
Yeah.
against the body or something. So that should give me some nice adjustment. They're not like all stretched out. So hopefully, I should have most of those parts uh, by tomorrow or Saturday. And if I got some time, I'm going to start working on that, even though it'll be hot.
Well, you're not
I
going to
can, I
Radwood
can
this weekend, so you might as well put the car together.
yeah, I mean, I've been getting a ton of stuff done because I talked about being laid off. I actually I'm starting a job in 2 weeks. So
Okay.
I'm trying to get everything in as many
Cram it
projects
all
as I
in.
can,
Yeah.
so I have less to do. Because I
Well,
think,
now I'm mad at you because you didn't tell me you accepted the job.
yeah, I'll tell you afterwards about it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Our post show wrap up. Yeah, so I hopefully I'll get this done. I'm hoping either this weekend or early in the week, and then the next thing I'm going to roll right into doing that adventure driven design bumper.
Excellent.
Uh, yeah, I think I'll do that, and I'll probably, because you're not here till the following week after Memorial Day, right?
I'm here the week. Yeah, the weekend after Memorial Day, so the first full weekend of June. I think it's like I don't know, first,
All right,
sixth,
so June
first or
June
sixth,
1st or
something.
whatever it
Yeah,
is. Okay.
that Thursday
Yeah, I
I'll
don't
be
want to
in
wait.
town.
I don't want to wait that long for you to help me eyeball it.
No, I mean you should be able to do it. And
All
if
right.
you have somebody around who's more experienced welder, maybe me convince Andy to come by or something and help you out with the welding. I think you'll be golden. So
Well, the big thing is you just line it up, tack it, and then it can be welded off the truck.
yep, that's I was just there for one, and that's how they did it. They bolted on the center section and then used very strong magnets to kind of adjust everything to the right adjustability, tacked it, took it all off, and welded it up. So
Yeah, we've got magnets for that. So.
then you're only as bad as your best grinder. So
Oh yeah, I
when you're
bought
all
some
done,
nice grinding wheels. It's like
yeah,
frictiondiscs.com or something.
sure. It's
I found
make my welding pretty.com.
yeah, I actually found, and I'm going to use them on the exhaust flanges to clean them up in this manifold too. I found a
Yep,
nice, it's a 4.5 inch disc, but it's a Roloc, like the Roloc material. That's like a Brillo
sure.
pad,
Yep,
but in a flap disc.
interesting.
It's kind of cool. Yeah, and it'll fit on the Ryobi grinder. So, and then a couple of those pieces have some slight flash rust, not like heavy, but just speckles from sitting in my garage because I left the oil on them, but like where
It's
like
bare
your
metal.
fingerprints were and
Yeah,
stuff, it's bare metal. So what do you? Is it Rustmort? What do you use?
you shouldn't even need to use rust mort. You should probably be able to get away with just some steel
Just
wool.
grinding them.
Yeah, just cut
I
them
mean,
down
I'm
with
gonna
some steel
grind as
wool.
much. I've got like a fine surface prep wheel too for the grinder,
Yeah,
like that
I
one
would
that
grind it
doesn't.
all down and use some real good Rust-Oleum as a primer.
I was thinking, yeah, I'm gonna get it down to bare metal and then like red Rust-Oleum, right?
I would, if you can get some etching
Or etching
primer.
primer.
Yeah,
Okay,
I would try to get
so
some etching
Rust-Oleum
primer.
etching primer.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna do. At least get it etched and sealed
Do you
because
still have the gun you shot the wheels with for the?
no,
Oh, okay,
I should
never
be able
mind.
to do it with a can.
Oh, you definitely can. It's just be I think it'd be easier with the
Yeah, it's clean up.
using a kind of gun like that. It's messy, it's cleanup, but it opens up a world of products too that aren't available in aerosol cans. But I think if you use a good etching primer and some
You can buy decent etcher
good
priming
paint,
at local parts stores now. So
for sure, for sure.
yeah, I was just gonna do that to seal it, and then um, I need to prep the rest of the silver on the truck, and all in one day. I was gonna do that
The painting
gravel
altogether.
guard,
Yeah,
the silver stuff I've got, and that way the bumper will be silver. And it'll be the rough texture. I think that'll look cool in the bumper.
yeah. It'll look very similar, I think, to Brian Driggs's Montero. His is not textured, but it's got silver paint on it, so it looks
And
good.
the Gone Dirt people, their bumper is silver too. I think it looks really good with the two tone.
It looks very good. It doesn't look like every other black, ARB style bumper out there. So I dig it.
Yeah,
Actually, speaking of the
and
Gone Dirt and people, I was watching Hulu the other day,
mm-hmm,
and we have the Hulu package, which includes commercials because I don't
right.
spend $70 a month on it. And there was a commercial. I don't even remember what it was for, but it featured their truck.
I think that it was Toyo tires. I think.
Yeah, it probably was Toyota tires.
Yeah, I
I was
saw
like,
that ad.
whoa, I know that truck. It's
Mm-hmm,
weird to see it on Hulu.
mm-hmm.
Just this Montero person that you follow, I know he's a pretty well known photographer for like, magazines and speed hunters and all that stuff, but it was just interesting to see on TV not doing car things and see the truck that from the internet in the
Mm-hmm.
commercial. Just need to see a Montero in any kind of mainstream anything. So
Yeah.
anyway, sidetracked. Sorry.
Yeah, so trying to knock all that stuff out. Maybe if I'm getting really feisty, I'll order a ABS sensor for the G20 and finish that out too.
Excellent.
Keep putting that off because it doesn't really affect the car too much, and
No, works fine
it's
without it.
not as annoying as blown out exhaust.
Well, no, and it won't get you yelled at by the neighbors.
Oh yeah, cars. I mean, it's weird. It's not too bad, but when you hit a certain frequency at like like 1,000 to 1,500 RPM in like second or third gear. It's like, oh my god, my eardrums are gonna explode. Like it's a weird low mid frequency. It's like
Yeah,
super annoying.
I remember that happening in other cars with broken exhaust. Like I remember when the flex pipe blew out of the Mirage once. It was a very similar thing. Like you couldn't drive the speed limit; you had to go below it or above it, or else you were deaf by the time you got to
Yeah,
your destination.
yeah.
So I get it; it happens. We're also not 19 anymore, and we don't need super loud cars. So
No,
not that we ever really did, but a nice little exhaust tone is one thing, but going too loud is another. So
I'm expecting a nice tuned sound out of this exhaust
I think so.
because
I think
it's good.
worst case scenario, you added another resonator. You know,
I mean, this thing's got an 18-inch resonator. It's huge.
right? So you should be fine.
Yeah, it's like almost the whole middle of the car.
And Greg's exhausts aren't known for being super loud anyway, so they're
No,
known for being a good tone. You know, he's
yeah,
an
and
older enthusiast himself. He gets it.
it's the 2.5, not the 3-inch version. So
Right. Which is overkill for a 2-liter NA for sure.
actually, I mean that's probably about just right. It should be pretty sweet.
No, I'm saying the 3 inch is overkill.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see. Everybody says these headers really wake these cars up, so I'm interested to see how it drives the header, especially when I do a track day
Yeah,
because it's supposed to be a lot of up end.
I've had the same conversation with people about doing a like an open element intake and a header on the naturally aspirated 4G63 and keeping the cap back. That it
Yeah,
actually also wakes the car up a ton without even breaking into the car and doing cams and stuff, which are on my list come timing belt time as well. So
yeah. What do they have you put turbo cams in a
yeah,
non-turbo?
turbo
More
cams and
lifting
on
duration.
turbo, and then you
Hmm.
do the a header off the front through a stock catback. It doesn't get way louder; it gets a little louder, but it wakes the car up a ton, and the power comes on way earlier. So
Cool.
it's not quite as peaky as it is, and you gain I don't know some measurable by the seat of your pants kind of horsepower for sure, I guess.
Yeah, that's what everybody says about these headers. So
So it should be good.
yeah, it should
But
be interesting.
excellent. I'm excited
Well,
to see the car come together. That's the last thing the car needs for now, really, other than the ABS sensor. So
yeah,
sit
yeah.
back and
No,
call it done.
it's a really cool little car. So um, I think that's it. I got a lot of stuff done.
It's good
A
because
lot
I
of
didn't do anything, so we had nothing to talk about.
yeah, I caught up with a lot of project car stuff I've been putting off because I knew this little break was coming up for myself, and I was waiting for the weather to get better. It's been really nice. Um, and yeah, that's if you're at home, you can drink to our weather talk.
Yeah.
I've
Excellent.
been
Well,
clearing out all the parts I have here.
I think that's an episode then.
It is an episode. So, yeah, come visit us on the Discord. You can like and follow us on Facebook on Off Topic Podcasts. Not really on there too often. We just kind of cross post from Instagram because it's better to follow us on Instagram, which is Auto Off Topic. Auto Off Topic on Twitter. Don't use it too much, but it's there. Follow me on Twitter, Race and Anger, and on Instagram, Race and Anger. You can see I've got some pictures of the projects I've been working on. And Brad, where can they find you?
They can find me on the Discord, and they can find me at TSISS350 on Instagram.
Cool. So, as always, keep your cars analog and aim for the roses.